Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear the remainder of Saint Cyril's testimony and begins hearing testimony of another civil party, that is true TCCP 286. Mr. Ho, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals to today's proceedings. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to discuss are present. Mr. Nunjie is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The civil party who is to conclude his testimony today, that is Mr. Saint Cyril, is present in the courtroom. We also have a reserve civil party today, namely through TCCP 286. Thank you. President, the Chamber now decides on the request by Nguyen Chia. The Chamber has received a waiver from Nguyen Chia dated 30th August 2016, which states that due to his health, that is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his right to be present at the 30th August 2016 hearing. He advises that his counsel advised him about the consequence of this waiver, that in no way it can be construed as a waiver of his rights to be tried fairly or to challenge evidence presented to or admitted by this court at any time during this trial. Having seen the medical report of Nguyen Chia by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 30th August 2016, which notes that Nguyen Chia has a chronic back pain and feels dizzy when he sits for long, and recommends that the Chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber grants Nguyen Chia his request to follow today's proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means. The Chamber instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nguyen Chia can follow. That applies for the whole day. The Chamber now hands the floor to the defense team for Nguyen Chia to continue putting further questions to the civil party. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, Council. Good morning, Mr. Civil Party. Yesterday, we stopped when we were discussing the matter of an investigation that you denied having taken part of in investigating people who were hiding rice for Vietnamese troops. Let me follow up on this. Were you ever involved in other investigations, investigations of people who were accused of having done things?
When I arrived in Krathi province, and as I said, I didn't stay there for the whole month. it was like 4 more days in order to be a month that I stay in Karachi. And I myself was not aware of what you raised. As I said, my sole task at the time was, with instructions from Mahmoud, was to gather forces who fled from the border area, that is from Snul.
Were you ever involved in the arrest of people? Did you ever arrest anyone yourself?
I myself never arrested anyone. I did not have any responsibility for the arrest of anyone. I was in charge of record keeping for the district.
Yesterday you spoke about events that took place at or on Kokor. Do you know a person in relation to events on Kokor called Chim? I'm not sure if I pronounced it well. Chim. Do you know him?
At that time, I did not have that authority, but I was curious. I want to see the location where people were sent to be executed at Kokko. So I went there without the knowledge of the district committee. And after I saw what happened, I left and I did not go there anymore, and I did not know people who were there or their names. I only knew when I was there, I saw people who were detained, and actually a person asked for a cigarette from me, and I gave it to him. And as I said later on, I left the island.
But my question was very concrete. Did you know a person who was somehow involved in the events at Kokor named Chim?
I went there for one time only, but I cannot recall the names of those who were arrested and detained there. As I said, I went to that location for one time only.
Just to make sure that I don't mispronounce the name, I will ask my national colleague to pronounce the name for you.
Mr. President, allow me to read it. The name is Jim.
So my question, do you know him?
I am not sure about that name. There was one person whose name I cannot recall, and who was the district committee, who was arrested and sent there. When I saw him, he asked me for a cigarette, but I cannot recall his name. And when I was there, as I said, he asked for a cigarette. I gave it to him. Later on, I left and I went to see the person who was in charge of Kokko. And later on, I left the island.
Well, Mr. Civil Party, let me see if I can refresh your memory a bit. In your DCCAM interview, E3/5643, you say the following on page English ERN 007 53898, Khmer 00059 404, and French 007 56648. It was so miserable at Kolkor, you say, and then the question is, who was in charge there at the time? Then you answer, it was Achim at that time, but later on I arrested him. Question, oh, you arrested him. Answer, I arrested Achim. Question, what did he do wrong? Answer, he made up confessions. He just wrote this person was connected to this person. But after investigations, we found that he had arrested many people. So he was arrested. And then it goes on for a little bit. So, Mr. Civil Party, does that refresh your memory?
Yes, I recall him now. I was instructed by the district committee together with a district military commander. I pointed the gun at Achim while the commander of the district military tied him up. And I asked why he was arrested. Then the district committee says that he made up confessions. People did not know some events, and then he made up the confessions, and as a result, some people were arrested. And yes, I recall the parts that you just read out.
But the answer says that you yourself arrested him. You're now saying that you were somehow part of the act of the arrest. But which one of the two is it? Were you the one who was arresting him?
I said that I pointed the gun and the arrest took place at the same time. And that was on the order from the district committee. After he was tied up, he was put into a vehicle and left. And I did not know what happened to him. That's all I can say regarding this event.
I understand that you were involved in the arrest of cadres. Were you also in a position to be able to release families or people who had been arrested?
I did not release any detainee, no. And I only involved in this one event, that is the arrest of the chief of the prison. I did not have such authority, and that was the only time of arrest that I participated in with the order from the district committee.
Well, let me again see if I can refresh your memory a little bit, Mr. Civil Party. In your DCCAM interview, you say the following on English ERN 0075 3855, Khmer 00059 350, and French 0079 598. You talk about an alleged plan to smash ethnic Vietnamese and ethnic Chinese. And then you say, and I quote, "I managed to release a few families in the case that the wife was Chinese and the husband was Cambodian. When a wife was taken to be killed and her husband came to me and asked for intervention, I took the name of the person and wrote it in a letter and sent it to the commune. I managed to help 3 or 4 families." End of quote. Does that refresh your memory?
That is true. However, I did not release the people who had been detained. The thing is, her husband was a soldier in the Sa district, and I did not know about the wife, whether she was a pure race or not. She came and cried to me and begged me to help her husband. And I wanted to see the names of the list provided from various communes, and I asked her to read the names. She checked the names and she found it. Then I wrote a letter for her to carry to the commune, so that the commune would not arrest her husband. And this is separate from what you said, that people had been detained and I went to release them. There was another event involving a car mechanic at the district. And with the order from the district committee, I wrote a letter to the commune where the parents of the car mechanic resided, so that they would not be arrested by the commune chief. And I did write the letter and they were not arrested.
Mr. Civil Party, let's not go into the details too much, but somehow you were involved in the release of a few families. Somehow you were in a position to be involved in this. You were involved in the arrest of a relatively high-ranking cadre, Chim. Are you sure that you were never instructed to investigate the case of people hiding rice for Vietnamese troops?
I did not know about the hiding of rice. Regarding the letters that I wrote to instruct the commune chiefs not to arrest the 2 families, I can recall it. And that thanks to your reading of the excerpt to refresh my memory, I wrote the letters so that they would not be arrested and sent to Kokko.
Mr. Civil Party, Khmer people, Khmer communists who went in the 50s and 60s to Vietnam. Are you aware of those people? And if yes, did you have a special name for them?
I cannot recall anything regarding what you said. When I was a soldier, I was not aware of that, and later on I became disabled, and I still did not know about those people. I only remained living and working at the office.
Well, let's see if that is correct. Let me see if I can refresh your memory again. It's the civil party. E3/5643, that's the DCCAM interview. This time English ERN 007533826, Khmer 00059. French 007566569. You were asked questions about Ya, the former chief of the Northeast Zone. Then you say the following: however, I did not know his deputy. The secretary at the time was very mixed up. The ones from Hanoi, from the north, were selected. They were called Ta Hanoi at the time. Ta what? Question. And then you answer, Ta Hanoi. Ta Hanoi. It referred to the Khmer people whom the Yun Hanoi selected for indoctrination before 1940 or 45. Afterwards, those people were allowed to come back, but some became sector secretary, while some others became sector deputy secretary. They were mixed up together in all provinces throughout the country. End of quote. Do you now recall what you said to DCCAM about these people whom you called Ta Hanoi?
Thank you, Counsel. I recall it, and I had a pity for him. At that time, I was in charge of the handicapped office in Takav sector. At that time, he did not meet with his wife, and he did not have any road since he came from the north part of Vietnam. There was a sector representative coming down, and Ya told me to take him. He bid farewell, and he took a K-59 pistol and handed to me that, and he said that that was the end of his life before he left. And I did have a great pity for him, and I considered him as my elder brother.
This person that you speak about, were you asked by anyone to arrest him and to execute him?
I did not know who. However, the chief of the handicap office told me to meet him and to wait for him. After I handed him over to the people there, I returned. So I did not know what happens to him. However, before I left, he handed over his pistol, and I said goodbye to him.
But my question was, were you ever asked by anyone to arrest this man and subsequently to execute him?
No, I did not receive an order to execute him. At the office, the chief of the office, where I was a deputy, instructed me to take him to a rendezvous point where he would be put on a vehicle. So I said goodbye to him at that rendezvous point. Then I returned. And that was the order that I received from the chief of the office.
Well, let me read to you what you said to the interviewer of DC Cam in that very same answer that I just referred to. I met one of them, one of the Tahanoi. I was asked to arrest and execute him. I said that I could hardly arrest him as he slept with me. Before he was arrested, he was crying and saying goodbye, that, quote unquote, I would be killed. I could do nothing to help. End of quote. So Mr. Civil Party, you said here that you were asked to arrest and execute him. Is that a correct statement in your DC Cam interview?
As I have just stated, I did not arrest him myself. What I did was to take him to a rendezvous point based on the instructions from the my supervisor, and I did not know whether he was sent somewhere to be killed. And before I left, he handed to me his pistol.
Mr. Civil Party, do you know who Kang Chap was?
His name sounds familiar, but I only saw him and I never spoke to him. He was at a senior level and I did not have any contact with him. And as I said, the name sounds familiar.
Well, Mr. Civil Party, are you sure about that? Do you not know some more details about Kang Chap?
No, I don't. I only heard of his name, but I did not speak to him. He was at the zone office with Tamok, and I was a low-level cadre, so I did not have the authority to speak to him.
Well, Mr. Civil Party, let me refresh your memory again. Again, DC Cam statement ERN English 007538883, Khmer 0005936, French 007966632. Question: was Kang Chap Tamok's deputy chief? Your answer: no, he was not. He was a doctor. He was trained in North Vietnam and a Vietnamese spy. And a little bit down, you say, as you mentioned earlier, Tachap was the secretary of the North Zone. He was the secretary of Sector 35. Sector 35? And then you answer, yes, he was not a doctor. I got confused earlier. Does that refresh your memory, Mr. Civil Party?
I am not sure since it happened a long time ago, and I could say that I heard of the name Kong Chap before. I can recall where he was transferred to, and he was not deputy of a zone, and to my knowledge, he was a medic.
But you said he was trained in North Vietnam and a Vietnamese spy. Why did you say that? What was your source of knowledge, indicating that Kang Chap was trained in North Vietnam and was a Vietnamese spy?
Related to the word spy or espionage, I never said so. I did not say so. I remember that I said something only about Hanoi or North Vietnam.
Yes, but you didn't say that you heard that. You actually said to Diesekamp he was a North Vietnamese spy. So my question is, why did you say that? How did you know that?
I did not say such a thing at that time. I did not know. And in our informal chatting, I may have talked about North Vietnam or Hanoi.
In that same question, the interviewer talked about Tam Mok. Do you remember who Tam Mok was and what kind of person he was?
Talking about Tam Mok, I do not know about his biography since his younghood. I saw him only when he's already a man. And I saw him because I worked in the Southwest Zone. But I saw him only briefly and did not have the opportunity to ask him about something in details about him.
Well, let me ask it.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can our colleague provide us with the Khmer ERN once again of the segment of the Diesekamp interview so that my colleague may be able to read it in Khmer? We just simply lost track of the ERN.
Well, I hadn't set the ERN yet. I'm about to now.
Sur Kang Chap.
Regarding Kang Chap, yes.
Kang Chap, oh yes. 007538883 in English. French 007966632 and Khmer 0005936. Mr. Civil Party, returning now to Tam Mok. And my question: what kind of person Tam Mok was? Was Tam Mok a very strict person? Yes or no?
I cannot comment on that. I don't know what type of a person he was. I only knew that he was the leader of the Southwest Zone, but For the characteristic or what type of person he was, I cannot give my comment on that.
Really, Mr. Civil Party? Let me refer again to an answer that you gave to DC Chem, this time English ERN 00753889, Khmer 00059393, French 0075668 and 39, and Khmer is 94, by the way, also. Question. I heard that Tamok was a very strict person. And then you answer, not really. He used harsh words when he talked. For instance, when he went to the hospital, he told the staff harshly to look after the patients. He also asked the patients if they had anything to eat. Sometimes the patients themselves were bad. They complained to him that the food was not good. Then Tamok asked for the hospital director and asked why the patients did not have anything to eat. He also ordered beef and pork to be quickly given to the patients. But the hospital staffers were also bad sometimes. After 3 days, they gave us no more food. During those 3 days, there was so much beef and pork, but after Tamok was gone, we ate normally. And then you speak about Tamok's fingers. They were long. He was well built, but not fat. And then you go on and on. It seems that you know Tamok quite well. Is that correct, Mr. Civil Party?
When I said that I knew him, it was the time when I was wounded. And at that time, he came to visit the hospital. And he instructed the medical staff there to take care of the patients. But I did not know about his biography.
A bit further in that interview, you said that you met him in '76. Do you remember the story about Tamok and his watch, and the watches that he used to wear?
It's words of mouth. I don't know whether it's true or not. That if people ask for it, he would take it off and give to the person who asked for it.
Well, it's not a terribly important story, but it goes to your credibility, Mr. Civil Party. That's why I will read something that you said to DC Chem about the watch story. That is the same ERNs that I just mentioned, but just a bit further. Question, so he, Tamok, was a kind person? And then you answered, if we asked for his watch, he would take it off his hand and give it to us. But we had to take it and walk out quickly, because if we were still there, and if there was another person asking him for that watch, he would take it back from us and give it to the one who asked for it last. I told him I did not have a watch to tell the time. And then he said, okay, you can have this one. Wow, it was an Omega. It was a famous make. He said, you take it. Well, I was still there after receiving the watch, and suddenly another person came and asked him for a watch too. He said, okay, you take it from him. End of quote. So Mr. Silvpati is not a very important story, but it seems that you got to watch from him in person. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Let me ask you about two other very high-ranking cadres. Do you know cadres named Runim and Saupim?
No, I never saw them. I only heard about their names.
But what did you hear about them?
We were far from each other because we were in different zones. We did not know each other.
Do you know whether they were full members of the Central Committee or the Standing Committee of the CPK?
I did not know clearly. I only heard through the radio about the announcements of their names.
Well, let me read to you what you said in that same DC Cam interview. I only have the English here, and I'm afraid I will give the Khmer and French a bit later, with your leave, Mr. President. It's English ERN 00753820. You said full members were only Von Vet, Saupim, and Runim, while Q Sampan, Son Sen, and Tamok were alternate members at the time. Question, how about Ing Seri? Ing Seri was a full member. Full member as well? You answer yes. Were there any other people? How about K Pok at the time? And then you say, no, Bong Pok was just a zone deputy secretary. And then you talk about Khoi Toon a bit further. Mr. Civil Party, how come you were in a position to know, for instance, that both Saupim and Runim were Central Committee members of the CPK, even standing committee members?
I was aware of this based on the accounts given to me by Pok, whom I met at Dong Rai Mountain, and he told me about such stories, and I gave my answer based on his account. Yeah, that is from Kao Pok. I never met those people. I only heard about their names and their stories through his account.
So it was K Pok who told you after 7 January 79 that both Saupim and Runim had been members of the Standing Committee of the CPK? Is that correct?
បាទខ្ញុំនិយាយនេះគឺ
Yes, I gave my answer based on my recollection when Cao Pok told me.
Well, I'm asking you this question because very, very few people knew that Runim was a member of the standing committee. So I was just wondering how you, as a civil party, were in a position to know that. But let me move on, Mr. Civil Party, to something else that you said, and that is the war or the armed clashes or the armed conflict between Vietnam and DK. What is it that you can tell us about that?
ខ្ញុំមិនដឹងជម្រាប
I don't know how to tell you because the responsibility of a soldier was to defend the territory, and at that time there was the issues of the Lunol soldiers and the Yun soldiers of Thieu Qui at the border areas. And that's what I could tell you, that an obligation of a soldier was to defend the territory, and I cannot comment more about the other purpose.
But let me ask it very concretely. What was the problem in terms of the border between DK and the Vietnamese? Can you tell us?
I did not know because I did not have knowledge in mapping or cartography. I was simply deployed to the border areas and I was required to defend it. So if there was a force which entered our territory, I would have to fight. And that was the order that I had to follow from my commander.
Mm-hmm. Were you involved in the planting of mines and the planting of border posts with the flag of DK?
I was aware of it during the time when I was based there, but I did not participate in the planting of mines. It was other members of my unit who were assigned to plant mines and place the flags. And some of the mines were later on removed, and then they planted mines again, and the mines blasted.
Well, let me see if I can refresh your memory again. Mr. Civil Party, your DC camp statement, English ERN 007533891, Khmer 000599396, and French 0075661. The question from the DC camp interviewer is as follows. Why were you told to fight against Yun? What was the problem between Cambodians and Yun? Answer. The problem was that the Yun encroached into our border. They removed the border posts planted during the French colony. I was following orders to plant border posts with our national flag. But they removed those posts and the flag. But we kept going and planting the posts, and they kept removing them. Then later on we planted mines there. They came to remove the posts. The mines went off, getting 3 or 4 of them, and we continued to plant some more. The flag you mentioned, was it the red flag? And then you answered, it was our national flag, the flag of our nation. Question, was it the one with an Angkor temple surrounded by color red? Right, that was the one. Also with curving rice stalks. And then it goes on a bit. Do you recall now having said that to the interviewer of DC Cam, Mr. Civil Party?
បាទខ្ញុំនឹកឃើញ
Yes, I can recall it. But I was not the one who did it. But other people who were from the same unit with mine who did it.
I'm particularly interested in one sentence in your answer, Mr. Civil Party, and it says, where it says, the problem was that the Yun encroached into our border. Can you be a little bit more specific? Can you give us some more details? Were it the Vietnamese troops who always started this? Is that what you're saying?
When I was not handicapped yet, and I was defending the territory at the border, they came in every day. They came to fish in our area every day, but it was not a large force. It was simply a smaller one. It happened when the time I was based there.
I understand, but just to be sure that we're talking about the same thing, you're being asked questions about the period, and it seems to me that you're saying that these events happened in 76 or 77. So the encroaching of the Yun into the border and the issue with the border posts, was that after 17 April 75 or before?
When I was deployed there, it was before 17 April 1975. At that time, there were still Tribunal soldiers who were there, and my unit were sent to their target. So we were fighting against the Tribunal soldiers.
Let me ask it differently. Those Vietnamese troops who were encroaching all the time, were these communist troops, either Viet Cong or North Vietnamese military, or were they South Vietnam military QT soldiers?
They were Thioki soldiers.
And do you know whether these encroachments also happened after 75? Do you have any knowledge of that?
រឿងហ្នឹងខ្ញុំ
I only heard about it because at that time, by that time, I was already a handicapped person.
All right. Let me ask you something different, Mr. Civil Party. Let me go to the events that you described yesterday, the execution of 10 people on Kor. Who was it that physically ordered the execution of these people? Who ordered the execution of those 10 people? Who was it?
I gave my answer about this yesterday already. It was the district committee who gave the order to the chief of the Kohko prison who conducted the execution. And the order came from the upper level down to Brother Pon.
My question is, the person, you said you were an eyewitness, the person physically ordering the executioners. Was that Jim or was that someone else?
I cannot recall it because the order came down the hierarchy, and I saw the 10 people who were already blindfolded and their hands were tied up, and the district committee gave the order, and during the execution time, it was a few of the security centers guards who carried out the execution.
Maybe I'm not very clear in my questions, but you said you were an eyewitness. You said that you saw an execution with your own eyes happening in front of you. Who was it that ordered the people to actually shoot them or kill them in another way? Was that Jim or was it someone else?
President, Mr. Civil Party, please hold on. Co-prosecutor, you may have the floor.
Yes, Your Honor. I object to this question as repetitive. It's the third time he's asked it. The witness has already answered. He said the orders came down and the execution order was provided by the district committee. He's answered several times now, and counsel doesn't like the answer, so he keeps asking the same question.
I wasn't asking at all about the command structure or the hierarchy or the way the orders went down. I was asking who was physically there ordering the execution. That is something completely different. Whether orders were coming from down, that is something that I will get to. My question is, was there a person physically, verbally ordering others to execute those 10 people? That question has not been answered yet.
President, Counsel, you may proceed with your question.
So, Mr. Civil Party, I'm asking you, who was the person that you saw, if at all, giving the order to soldiers or to whomever to execute those 10 people? Who was that?
Mr. Civil Party, please hold on. The floor is given to the Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Well, now he's asked a different question than he said he wanted to ask. If he wants to ask, was there someone there who physically gave an order there, that's fine. But now he's telling the witness someone must have been there who physically ordered it. Who was it? So I think he needs to ask the question a different way.
Let me try. I think I understand where you are going. Civil Party, while you were there and witnessed the execution, did you hear anybody say, kill those 10?
It is difficult for me to respond to this question, and to me it is rather repetitive.
To me. Listen carefully. You witnessed an execution of 10 people. Is this true?
Yes, it's true.
While you were there, did you hear anybody say, kill these 10 people? Or did you not?
It seems not.
So just to clarify, while you were there, you didn't hear anybody giving the order to kill these 10 people. Do I understand you correctly?
At that time, when I was standing there to witness the execution of the 10 people, I did not hear anyone saying anything or said about the order. No, I did not hear that.
Thank you.
Then, of course, my next question is, Mr. Civil Party, who were the people that killed those 10 people? Who were they?
As I have stated, the chief of the prison of Kokko ordered his subordinates to fire and shot the 10 people. And the prison chief himself did not commit the killing, but he was the one who issued the order to his subordinates.
Now we're getting there. How is it that you know that it was the Kokko prison chief who ordered his subordinates to kill those 10 people?
I have stated repeatedly that the chief of the Kokko prison issued order to his subordinates to kill the 10 people that I witnessed. What else you want me to say?
Well, I would like you to describe for the chamber how this order was conveyed to those men executing those people. Was it a verbal order? Was it a written order? Was it something he said that you overheard? I would like to find out exactly what it is that you said you witnessed.
Allow me to clarify the matter once and for all. Regarding the sending those people to Kokko and later on executed them, And as I've stated, the district level ordered all commune chiefs to gather those pure June and Chinese people and had them sent to Kokko. Then the Kokko prison chief noted or registered those names, then reported to the district, and later on they would be killed. And that was the order of the district committee through the prison chief, and the prison chief would order his subordinates to kill those people in a group of 10 or in a group of 20.
You're describing a general mechanism, Mr. Silva, but let me move on and go up one step. Were you present when the Kokor prison chief received the order? Were you there in his room? Were you there when he received that specific instruction?
I already stated what I witnessed regarding the events that was unfolded in Kokko.
Well, Mr. Civil Party, you said that you sort of happened to end up on Kokor without really having any business there. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly what you knew and what you saw. But let me be specific in terms of names. You said that the Kokor prison chief must have received an order from the district committee. Who was it specifically on the district committee that ordered, according to you, the Kokor prison chief? Was that Jim person that we spoke about earlier?
I have stated repeatedly that Sao Pon was the district committee, and he was the one who ordered the Kokor prison chief to execute those people. And commune chiefs would transport those people to Kokor.
Fine, but then can you explain to me why it is that in your DC Chem statement you say something different, apparently? English ERN 00753898, Khmer 00059404, French 007566648, and I quote you again, it was so miserable at Kokor. Question, who was in charge there at the time? It was Achim at the time, but later on I arrested him. And then it goes on about the confessions. So, again, my question to you is, was it Jim who was involved? Or who was responsible for the killing of those people? Or was it Sao Pon? Which one of the two?
President Civil Party, please hold on, and co-prosecutor, you have the floor.
The question before was, who was the district committee that issued the order to the security office? He answered that question, and then counsel stood on his feet and said, he said something different in his interview and read about who it was who controlled the security office at Kokor, an entirely different issue. And now he wants to ask who was responsible. Was it the district chief or the security, the head of the prison? That's not a question for this witness to answer. He needs to ask specific factual questions.
if you read the complete context of his statement, you will see that he speaks about this actual event. He said he witnessed it with his own eyes. And then even a question where children also killed, everyone was. He says it was so miserable at Kokor. Who was in charge there at the time? It was Achim at that time. I mean, we can split words here, but I don't think that's a whole different issue as the prosecutor seems to suggest. So, but let me see if I can rephrase it, Mr. Civil Party. Who was in charge of Kokor and who was responsible for the execution of those 10 people? Was it Chim? Was it Chim or Sapon, or were both responsible? What was it?
I have stated that Saupon, the district committee, issued order to Kokor chief to execute those people who were sent to Kokor, and the executioners were the subordinates of Jim. I made it very clear already.
So was Chim then the prison chief of Kokor?
Yes.
Now I understand. And then, before I ask more questions about Chim, maybe, Mr. President, this would be an appropriate time to break.
Thank you, Counsel. It is now a convenient time for a short break, and the Chamber will take 20 minutes break.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រកឈរ